I've got a confession to make.
I need to get this off my chest. As a business owner, we all make mistakes.
I've got to confess.
Hey guys, it's Charlie from Confessions of a Business Owner here, and today I am joined by the one and only Kim Barrett. So good to have you on the show again, dude. How you doing?
Great to be here, Sir C. Doing super well. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm glad to see Sir C is taking off, by the way. I think in every conversation we have, you use it. And now all my friends and other business acquaintances have started to call me it. So for those of you that don't know, Sir C is the name my VA Juvie calls me. And it is slowly catching on to everyone else, and it's just become the new nickname. So that might even be my new intro.
Love it. And it's been a busy week. We've been putting out 2 episodes a week of this amazing podcast. So we've been churning through some great ideas and getting some great feedback from people as well.
Well, you got to give the people what they want. And overwhelmingly, they demanded more episodes and we wanted to bring it to them. So 2 episodes a week has been working really well for us. And it's been great to see people getting into the content and asking questions. So this week, pardon me, we're going to be diving into what I think is probably one of the most important topics in business that inevitably all business owners will cross at some point, which is running an adult daycare center. So Kim, would you like to describe what running an adult daycare center is?
Yes, because some of you may have thought, did Kim and Charlie open an adult daycare center? Not quite. Well, basically, we both did actually. So it's basically where you have your company, your business, and you're so inundated with your staff. You're so inundated with the day-to-day and interacting with people and problems and all this sort of stuff that goes on that it kind of feels like you have a daycare center filled up with babies, but they're adult babies. No, just adults themselves. So and it can get stressful, overwhelming, and very, very interesting to deal with. And today we're going to be talking about and giving some stories about how that's affected both of us. But then also, we're not going to leave you hanging. We'll give you some of the solutions that we've used and that we've identified to be kind of like the icing on the cake, the answer to this ever burning question of what happens when you have an adult daycare center.
Absolutely. There'll be a lot of confessions on this episode, but don't worry, a lot of solutions as well. So we might as well open it up then. And I love your explanation because it's really what happened to me. So it's when all my time was taken up by my staff, and it was effectively like my day revolved around making sure they were okay instead of actually running my business. Now, for me, when this happened was when I was running my marketing agency, and at a point I had 15 staff. And there wasn't very much cohesion between each of them. It was like I was the pin connecting them all. So I was like, I'll give you an example is, if Bob needed to get a task done by Juvie, and instead of just Bob going to Juvie, Bob would come to me, I would go to Juvie, Juvie would come back to me, I would go back to Bob. Like I was the connecting piece in making everything move, and we just weren't communicating or operating in a way that didn't require me. So I'll describe what life was like at that point. Oh God, I'm already just a little bit of rage lighting up within me whenever I think back. And just to give you an idea is like, I actually went to a party with my partner Bianca one night, and someone asked me what I did. And I told them I ran an adult daycare center, and they actually thought I did. And they thought I was maybe working with special needs people or something like that. It was just that I was so incredibly frustrated that I felt like that was my life. So the average day is I was coming into work and just really like hammering our project management system and trying to move things across to get work done for clients. And I was getting really frustrated because I wanted to spend my time working on the business and growing the business and helping the clients get results. But inevitably all I was doing was just coming in and looking after them. And I got quite exhausted and incredibly frustrated. And I found that I even started becoming quite short and almost like angry at my staff for them needing me. So I'd gotten to a place where I was like pissed off because 8 hours of my day was consumed with looking after them every day instead of doing the things I knew I needed to do. And not only that, if I ever didn't work, like if I had a day off or maybe went to a business conference or anything like that, is like things would seem to actually fall apart when I was not there. So this is the nature of running an adult daycare center and the risks and everything that comes with it. Was the experience similar for you, Kim?
Oh well, obviously I still have a marketing agency, so we've had a very similar experience, and it's like I remember I was actually listening to another podcast recently from a buddy of ours, Alex Schaff, and it was talking about why having like an open door policy is like the stupidest thing to ever have. And it's like how much distraction it was literally. So we had, you guys can see this is my office here, and so it's a reasonable size if you're watching the video, you're not listening on iTunes. And in this space, the same space as I have here, which is just me now, I had probably 4 people. And then we had another room with like another 4 people. So, because we were like sharing offices with one of our clients. And I remember someone once told me, they're like, oh, if you have like staff, this is the amount of like square meterage you should have per person. And I was like, no, I can fit 4 people in there. What are you talking about? They're like, and now there's only 1 person in that office where we used to have 4. So we were all somewhat on top of each other. We were growing and we had staff coming in. However, very similar to what you've said is that everything that would happen, they would just be like, hey, Kim. And it would just be popping their head in and going, especially if we're in the same room, it's just turn around and go, oh, by the way, like just asking these questions. And for me, like, and afterwards we were able to work out a way around it. But it's like, well, I may have my head in finances, in customer service, in delivery, in team growth, in like a myriad of different places, but I have to quickly stop, swap my hat to something else, and go, okay, cool. Now I'm dealing with HR. I'm dealing with like like staff relations, or I'm dealing with someone who's got a payment issue. I'm in the accounts department now, and it was just so difficult to actually get things done, but as well for everyone to do things effectively, because a lot of the time the question didn't actually need to be asked to me, but because I was there and available, it's like, oh, well, I'll just ask Kim, I'll just ask Charlie, like he's right there, like he's the boss, but ask him, versus going, well, actually using some strategic thinking, or just going, okay, cool, like maybe I should Google it, maybe I should look it up in our systems like area, maybe I should do this, and start looking at something like other ways to get the answer. Versus if I'm there, and because I also I traveled a lot more, but I used to travel a fair bit. I was like, guys, like when I'm here, like I know you want to ask me more questions, but like, and I just said like, just pretend that I'm away, right? I'm not here, but obviously I'm sitting right there. So that lasted like half a day. When they were like,
wait, you got half a day? I was expecting half an hour.
Yeah, they're like, oh, Kim, I know you're not here, but I'm like, oh gosh, that was a terrible example to use, but so from there, it's like, it was literally, as I said, because we had so many of us on top of each other, and like, probably, like, I'll give us a little bit of credit. We probably had some things done better than most when they first started out. However, like, yeah, we were definitely running a big time adult daycare center and flying by the seat of our pants for sure.
Yeah, well, it's just not sustainable. And I think you highlighted something really important there. It's a massive rob of productivity. Is like, it's actually, taking you, the business owner, effectively the most expensive asset of the business, and making sure that your productivity like plummets through the floor. So I want to ask you a question, because I've got an opinion on this, but it's like, what do you think created the adult daycare center? How did you end up there?
Well, I created it, to be honest. Like one of the big things, and I think we did this we talked about this a little bit at the start of the year, which is like setting and holding, and would be great to reference back to that episode, like setting and holding the expectations of what you allow. It's like what you allow, but also what you don't allow. And it's like, if I allow myself to get asked 100 questions in a day, that's my fault, right? If I don't set those things up properly, and we'll cover this when we go through some of the solutions too, but like, I purely just said, well, I'm here, like, of course, ask me a question. And at the start, being very open and friendly with everyone. And I think it probably works when it's like you and one person, right? It's like, well, of course, like, who else are you going to ask? Like, of course you're going to ask me. So it's like, because I very quickly went from like 0 to 1 to 2 to 5 to 7 to like, the team very much expanded very fast. And I had the same attitude and approach when I had one person on the team as I did when I had 10. And there's a very different expectation level and just like energy level that it takes to deal with that. But what about yourself? Is it something similar or slightly different on how you created yours?
Very, very similar. So first off, I'm aware I created it. Like, I definitely made the mess. I'll own it. And I love that you took ownership of it too, because it is the truth of how we ended up there. But when I really think back to it and I look in that situation, is I had an expectation on other people in my business to behave like me. Like as the business owner, is like I would work things out myself and, you know, come up with ideas and solutions. And I thought in hiring people, they would be able to do that as well. But instead, I created an environment where they thought they could offload their thinking and ask me things constantly. And then we turned it into a habit because I answered it. So I, you know, as you said, enabled, and then it became habit, and then it was just the way we operated. And then the next thing in that is that as we grew and brought more people into it, is I didn't learn or adapt any people management skills or anything like that. I was still operating as if I was that solo person and, you know, very short-term thinking of just, you know, hiring the next person and like working it out along the way over to, you know, setting a structure or putting things in place that we'll discuss shortly that could have made all the difference. You know, but hindsight's interesting because I'm sure we can both look back and say, oh, would have done things very, very differently if I'd have known then. But it's honestly those experiences or running the adult daycare center that kind of makes you go, right, I have to learn this stuff because this isn't how I want to operate in the world.
Yeah, and as you said, like it's very quickly, it gets frustrating for you. And obviously, and it probably is, to be honest, frustrating for the staff as well, because they're going, well, the only way that I like, the only perceived solution I have is everyone else telling me I've got to ask Charlie or Kim, I've got to ask them. That's the answer to my problem. And then like we very much get pissed off at answering then questions from our team. It's like you shouldn't really be pissed off to respond to your team that are helping you grow your business, right? And you're like, oh, like figure it out for yourself. Like fuck. Sorry for
but I've got to chime something in there. I actually think that, I mean, I have never worked for another small business. Like I've always had my own. So, but what I find from talking with other small businesses and what I see, you know, even in our community and everything else, is not many businesses have got this stuff worked out. Like even if you hire an employee, their expectations for maybe working at another company is the same. I don't see a lot of businesses doing this fantastically well.
No, I would say it's 100% the truth. And yeah, even like thinking back to some of the jobs I've had, there always had to be, like I probably did more than most, but I even remember when we used to have tax returns getting done, and like they would get, and everyone would have to go and do reviews with like the head accountant, the owner of the company. So it's like, cool, get your 35 questions together, and then they would sit down and go through and ask each question. As opposed to, it's like, for me, when I did my stuff, it's like I kind of like finished it and then just made some assumptions and said like, and then I was like, cool, like, is there any problem if I just put this through? And they're like, because I did like company setups and trusts and structures and stuff. And it's like, well, if it's from what the client said and it's all good, then no, you're all fine. Like, go ahead. And then I would just, again, as well, instead of waiting to ask the boss, who then says to ask the client, I'll just call the client and be like, hey, I need your place of birth. Can I get that? As opposed to going, do I call the client to ask for the place of birth, or do you know the place of birth? I'm like, I'll just give the client a call right now. It'll take me 2 minutes.
Well, Kim, if you're ever looking for a job, that's the type of initiative I look for in my companies. But I think that's an interesting point of view. But you can see that that's probably why you did well in those companies, and they're the type of behaviors that served you well. But just in that moment, you could have just as easily turned your workplace in that example into an adult daycare center for your boss.
Yeah, 100%.
Ooh. So what we're going to do now is me and Kim have actually done some prep work for this episode because we didn't want to come and talk about an adult daycare center. And I know some people out there will be experiencing this in some way, shape or form. We want to bring solutions to the table of how to deal with this if you've got an adult daycare center and you need to change that. And also if you're growing your team, what you can put in place and do before so you never have to experience the adult daycare center. All right. So we're going to go through number one and we're going to talk about, we'll go through them all. There are 4 we've picked out here that I think are the most useful. I'm going to go through each of them and talk them through a little bit. So the number one that come up in here is onboarding. It's when we start people. And I think this is a huge one. This can make the difference from day one. So from my point of view, if you onboard someone and you're setting the expectations that they'll need to be able to work on certain projects on their own, and you're also training them and giving them the things at that point in time so they can do it, they're going to be a lot less reliant on you. And I know this as a fact because I've just onboarded a new person in my company and I've barely heard from them and they're producing amazing work. I feel like I have to check in on them, like, are they here? So it's been crazy good. So that's number one from my point of view. Is there anything you want to add to that, Kim?
Yeah, I mean, I'll briefly touch on like it makes such a difference when people know, um, like how the flow was, and as well, like who was actually the biggest problem that we had when we had new people come in, they would just come in and we would just run off to the races. We're talking about this before, and we actually implemented the from the Hubbard management system asterisk Scientology, the org board. So there's an org chart, which a lot of people know about, the organizational chart and the flow and the top down. Whereas this board basically allowed you to go, cool, well, in each division, and you may be across several, there's like 7 divisions in a company. In each division, who is responsible for that division, but then also then who do they, like there's a structure there going, well, cool, if I'm actually in the accounts payable division and I'm wearing the hat of this, which is like invoicing, great, there's like a policy and process for that. But as well, I know that if I have a problem, I don't go and speak to Kim. If I've done the best I can, then the person who's responsible for that area is Christy. So I go and speak to Christy about it. If she needs to, she then escalates to Kim and has a chat with him if there's something that needs to happen. And even if I'm responsible and I might be at the top of each area, it then allows people to go, well, actually, I have I'm in division 2 at the moment. Sorry, I'm there. I'll come back to you. So for us, when it came to onboarding and understanding and having that going, well, okay, cool. If you come in, this is where you slot in versus, okay, great. You can run ads or build funnels. Sweet, do that, thanks. Like we actually had like a nice outline for them to understand. It was really, really powerful for us when it came to onboarding.
I love that. I think the org chart or the org board should be a part of everyone's onboarding experience. So they know who they can go to get help on certain things. Because if you don't set that, guess who they're coming to? You. Absolutely. And I'll take it right now is like, I'll bet majority of the people out there or the majority of the employees haven't had that experience. Like what a difference it could make.
Yeah.
Okay. So number 2, and this is my favorite, systems and processes. I think this is essential to all businesses. There's no exemptions on that one, and very few actually have them. And quite clearly, if you've got it documented how your business works and you've got it stored somewhere fantastically online these days, there's so many great tools like System Hub. It's like if someone needs to learn how to do something or needs to know how something works within a business, if you've got it documented, that's where they can go to work out how to get done what they need to get done. It also acts as their training library so they can perform their role really, really well. So if you haven't already, systems and processes can make a huge difference with the autonomy of your staff.
Yeah, and I remember, I think it was either Peter Moriarty or might have been Jack Deloitte or something talking about systems one time, because I know that they did a lot of stuff with Google Sites and putting systems in there. And it was like anything that you do more than once gets systemized and puts a process and a procedure behind it. And it was like, I remember I was like laughing because I was like, oh yeah, like cool, that's funny. But then it's like we've had 2 incidents with our coffee machine with people using it that aren't here all the time, and they use it and then something like happens, like they screw it up or they don't know where to put the pod or something like that. And I'm like, oh, okay, it makes sense now. It's like, yes, they should be. It's like, cool, if you're using this espresso machine or whatever it is, here's how you do it. Like this, and like it actually makes a tangible difference.
Absolutely. And this falls into that category of it's something I certainly didn't appreciate in the early days of my business. But I like to think it's taken me almost 10 years to get to the appreciation where I won't even do a project without systems and processes because I know how important it is. And I don't know if you find this as well, is like if I talk to business owners and they've been in it a long time, they tend to be more into systems and processes. People who've been doing stuff a long time, they appreciate and do systems and processes.
Yeah, 100%. Otherwise, it's like it's too boring for people. Then it's like when you've been in it for a while, you're like, oh yes, this is actually exciting because it's going to give me more freedom and more availability within the business as well. As soon as I systemize something.
I think, and one of the mistakes in the marketing of systems and processes is I think it's kind of been marketed as it's something you need to do when you sell your business, but it's like it's never really spoken about. No, it's something you need to do so your team functions really well and they don't destroy your life. Like that's really the purpose of systems and processes. Now, the next one is, and Kim, this is one you added to the list, which I absolutely agree with and I think is so important, but team meetings. So regular team meetings. So did you want to elaborate on this one?
Yeah, because so before we had the meetings that we'd have our like start of the week meeting, and then we started doing an end of the week meeting where we would have like our close off, our wins, and kind of share with each other. We normally do that over lunch on a Friday. Then, however, we're having the problem. It's like, cool, we get in and work, and it's like, great. Everyone starts at 8:30. It's like 8:35. Hey, Kim, 9 o'clock, this. And then it's like, not only with myself, but back and forth with everyone else. So we started implementing a 15-minute like stand-up team huddle where everyone would come together, even our virtual assistants call in, and everyone stands. So it's like, you can see it's funny because they've got like their laptops, and it's like they're like giants over the top of their laptops because they're all standing up in their the team huddle in the morning. But it allows, it's like literally 15-minute like communication flow where it's like, cool, if you have anything to bring up, we go through not only going, cool, there's anything that needs to be brought to anyone's attention urgently, we go through our overarching KPIs for this, like, cool, our clients' accounts, like their ad accounts going okay, our sales numbers, our marketing numbers, and then we look at our capacity. Out of 10, we go, cool, 10 means that you're dying, 1 means that you have absolutely nothing to do. Where do you fit on that spectrum? Because then as well, if someone goes, great, like, actually, Kim, I was going to ask you about all these things because I'm at 10 today. It's like, great, well, Charlie's at 1. So you and Charlie get together, you distribute your task to Charlie, he'll help you out with what he can, and then we're all good. And then it avoids halfway through the day going, oh, Pete, what's happened to all those like ads or funnels or all this like strategies you meant to put together? It's like, oh, I'm snowed under. It's like, okay, well, great. Well, we only know now we've only got 4 hours left in the day. So it really allowed us to alleviate and then also like cross utilize capacity for, it's probably a very long explanation for it, but yeah, distribute capacity to where it needed to be done like throughout the team as well.
Well, that's the Kim Barrett system right there. I like that. Cross-pollinate capacity. That's what we're going to go with. But it's a really interesting one. I think so important. So recently, and I'll even confess on this, is I mucked around with my team meeting structure, and we only had one team meeting a week on a Tuesday. And I thought that was going to be enough, with all the other communications. And honestly, I could see that things became more reliant on me because of all the extra communication it created out of the meetings. And we've gone back to a Monday, Thursday structure with a daily voice message from the team. And it's made a huge impact into having all the information we need over those times and everyone being in the same page so that there's so much less communication outside of that and in my time. And I think as a business owner, it's like when we know we've got a team meeting in the day, so we know, right, I've got a team meeting from 9 till 10 and that's when you have it and you're expecting it. You're really engaged and involved and you probably enjoy it a little bit. What you don't like is when someone's pulling you aside when you're doing other things. So where this becomes a double win when I think about it, and you can space your meetings out in your company any way you like as long as it works. But when you have a structured meeting and times to discuss things, that becomes when you can block it out and plan from it. And it's less like, oh, can you come and help me with this? I've got a question with this, because they know that is when the meetings are going to be happening. So super important for reducing the need of the adult daycare is running those meetings so everyone can get on the same page and then go and do their work for the day.
Yeah, it makes such a big difference. And yeah, like it's trying to do it without, like now I would struggle dramatically.
Absolutely. I really think it's like one of those things. It's like in the beginning, we didn't appreciate in the beginning of the meetings. That's time we're not making bank.
Yeah.
Which now it's like meetings, need a meeting. Where are our meetings? No, but I joke. But number 4, and I think this is another really good one. And I tell you what, before I even say this point, in the last 12 months, the things that have become available to us to do these is astronomically awesome. Like I don't know how companies did this 20 years ago. So let's look at it as improving the quality of communications we have between each other and the team. So I'll give an example and then I'll let you elaborate. The example me and Kim spoke about before this episode is, if you're emailing each other, that's a really, emailing and text, that's a really poor form of communication. And it's really hard to keep track of, and it creates the need for a lot more communication. But in these days and age, if you're using a project management software like Asana or Basecamp or a variety of ones that are out there, or Podio, and then you're using video used from tools like Loom or recording great voice messages, is that just levels things up. You're communicating so much more information, so much more clearly that it reduces the need for more. It actually makes things a lot better. So did you want to elaborate on that one, Kim?
Yeah, and like I remember when I first started thinking about this a lot is I went to Facebook's office in Singapore. And I was there and I was talking to the guys walking around. I was like, cool. So like, what sort of like cool technology do you guys use for your like team communication to use in Slack, project management, blah, blah, blah. He's like, no, we just get up and like talk to each other. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, we have like a team meeting at the start of the day. And then it's like, if we need something, we'll tap each other on the shoulder. He's like, we alleviate. It's like pretty much, it's almost like without being, it's like internal email is pretty much banned. It's like, we don't do internal email because it's such a waste. And I was like, it makes like a lot of sense because it's like literally, why would you email someone if they're like there? Like, it's like, hey, but then, you know, so that was something that we started looking at here. It's like, well, we shouldn't need to, unless it's like after hours or forwarding an attachment or something like that, we shouldn't need to internally email each other. So we looked for a platform because the biggest thing I love is voice, because as well, I can do it on, not only is it a better communication than email, I can convey my tone. I can like, so often, even now, people like, I'm in group chats with people in business, and then it's like, I've introduced a lot of people as JVs, and they come to me and like, oh, Kim, such and such said this, and it's like, and they put a tone on it. I'm like, hang on. You don't know that they're like, oh, I'm gonna, you don't know, they didn't, yeah, you don't know that they did it with a high pitched voice like that. So why don't you have a voice message with them and see what happens? And it's like, voice message, like, oh no, it's all good. They're all good. I'm like, yeah, because you assume, like, everyone puts it in their head. And, you know, it's like when you read something, it's like, oh, well, they must have been feeling like this or that. So at least.
So true. So true.
The worst. It's like, I remember
I'll do a really good example.
You're like, everyone thought you were being a dick to them or something, right? Because you were like,
I'll tell that story in a second. But the first thing is, I'll just do an example. There's a really big difference between, oh, Christy, you did a really good job, which I know Christy's in your office and we love Christy. And it's like, Christy, you did a really good job. He's like, you know, almost like it's the negative. It's the same exact words, but just how you pronounce it can be so different. And I want to quickly tell this story because it's hilarious. I was having trouble at the time with the Outsourcing Angels team, the management team. And the reason is because when I type, am quite blunt, apparently, and quite direct. And the management team at Outsourcing Angels, and I'm, you know, not being sexist or anything from there, but we've got some females that might be a little bit emotional at times, or they have a higher EQ than I do. So when I type something, they take it really seriously, and you know, I understand that, and I try not to do it. So what I found out is that the whole Outsourcing Angels management team thought I was an asshole. They actually thought I was just a rude prick. And I was like, I really don't mean it. Like, I'm not trying to be that at all. Like, I might be a bit short, but, you know, just because I don't use 50 emojis doesn't mean I'm an asshole. And what actually fixed the management communication was Facebook voice messages. Because all of a sudden, when I was adding tone to things, they were all understanding each other so much better. So I just think this is an absolute winner on all fronts. And just like you, Kim, I'm all about the voice messages.
Yeah, it makes such a difference. And that's why, so we use Workplace by Facebook, which allows us to do voice messages. It keeps everyone away from their own distracting Facebook, including myself. And we can do voice messages, live video in there because, like you mentioned before, Loom and things like that, as opposed to having 35 back and forth emails, it's like, cool, hey, Kim, blah, 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 give me all the info, then I can respond. There's like one communication process versus like 35 emails. And it just makes it so much easier. And that's the same as like, if I ever see a problem, and like, that's why it's like, as you said, like Loom is like a godsend. It's like, cool, like a client today freaking out. I was like, cool, send me a recording. Like they sent me a recording. I was like, great. Like as soon as I saw a recording, I was like, this is the problem. Did a recording back. That would have taken like 6 years to solve on email versus like 5 minutes with a Loom video. Like it was done. And and as well, I can put her on, because she speaks a little bit slow, I can put her on 2 times speed on my browser so that it goes really fast. I'm like, great, cool. Got the thing is like a 10-minute video, took me 4.5 minutes.
Excellent. I think that's an absolute winner. I love how you've gone about that. So guys, that is the 4 things you can do to make your team less reliant on you and operate with more autonomy. And not only that, prevent you from running the adult daycare center. So I'm going to quickly revise these and go through them. So we've got number 1 is onboarding. Number 2 is getting your systems and processes. Number 3 is team meetings, regular team meetings, I should say. And then number 4 is improving the quality of your communications through the use of video, especially things like Loom, and then voice messages through great tools like Facebook Workplaces or Slack or Skype or whatever you use, but definitely take advantage of them. So, Kim, is there anything you want to add on to the end of this episode?
No, I just think that if you are feeling like you're running an adult daycare center, like listen to this episode again. Like if you got through it and it's like, okay, like, and then just build yourself an action plan, because very quickly you can turn it around. You know, it's
Absolutely.
not something it doesn't take a year to fix it. It's like, well, you can start straight away.
Yeah, I definitely agree to that. I honestly think it's not a big thing to change. If you've got a long time team, you might fight some resistance, but this is something that's easily achievable for every business owner with a team. All right, guys, this has been Confessions of a Business Owner and a huge focus on how to get the autonomy out of your team. Thank you so much for joining me, Kim Barrett.